Hello, Glorious backers. This is an update for Glory 2nd Edition, which is with the manufacturer right now. I am giving you this update to tell you how it's going. I have been back and forth with the manufacturer in the last month and a half. It's been kind of ambiguous to me how it was going to turn out in some regards, but I now think that I have enough information to reliably have something to say. I think that the production is going to be delayed such that my estimate for you receiving the game has changed from October to January. That's a 3-month slide. This has occurred because I've made some small edits, changes, tweaks to the game, but my manufacturer Longpack, which is a good manufacturer, these are the same manufacturers that printed Everdell, which I'm sure all of you know. Hold on, I gotta let my cat in. Everyone knows Everdell. That is one of the best, it's maybe the best manufactured game on the market in terms of materials. And we're using the same manufacturer, so that's a good thing. But they do say that their printer, their basic equipment for making the game, has a backlog. So there's they refer to COVID, even though it's not that bad right now for them. But in COVID from the past year has disrupted their supply chain a little bit. I think everybody's heard this legitimate excuse in some area or seen it on the news or whatnot about supply chain and COVID. Seems like it's affecting us. I think the project was going to be delayed anyway because of the back and forth changes I've been making, but it's exacerbated by this backlog. So making a project 2 years ago, 3 years ago, making a small change wouldn't make any difference, but this time it put us back in the queue by more than a normal amount. But I do want to say, I want to give you reasons to stick with me here and help you to understand my perspective. So first of all, whether you bought this through Shopify, Glory through 2nd Edition through Shopify, or through Kickstarter, I'm basically a Kickstarter small business. We only have one title under our belt, Glory, and now Glory 2nd Edition. So this isn't, Kickstarter games there's a wide variety of how independent and how small or large companies are that kickstart a game. So you have large intellectual properties like Marvel and Witcher, kickstarting. Obviously, they don't need the kickstart capital in order to make their product. I do. And when you buy a Witcher or a Marvel game, for instance, you know what you're getting. You're getting this like gorgeous art, IP. What you get when you back a small independent like myself is kind of like seeing, a smaller band live. Arguably better art. Maybe you just like pop music, but maybe you do like a good rock and roll band like the Glorious Sons, which I'm sure I'll recommend here. I'm wearing their hat. What you get out of that is the potential for originality. I'm not going to game you, but and break out my product in such a way that I maximize the amount of money out of you. Instead, you're going to get the heart of board gaming. You're going to get the potential for originality. You're going to get the potential for artistic merit. You're going to get the potential for something a little bit different. And in Glory, I submit to you that there is this like weirdly good ratio of how rich and complex the game is versus how few rules you need. to play it. And there's an unlikely amount of agency in a game this complex if you really look at it, really think about it subtly. And my opinion is obvious. You can biased. I designed the game, but that's what you're there for, And in terms of like the complexity of the game, here's another thing about the big versus the small. The small, maybe you're going to get like I'm not going to have VIP status and getting in the queue for the print runs, so that could slow me down. And it also means I don't have a large team working on it. It's mostly just me. So that could slow me down, and then also my knowledge base could be smaller in some areas that could affect me, because I'm not hiring people with specialized knowledge of different aspects of the projects. But on the other hand, instead of maximizing the amount of money I draw out of you, the difference between Glory First Edition and Glory Second Edition is that I produced enough design content for an expansion, 100%, a thick, good, fat, awesome expansion. But I just put it into a second edition. So I would like to argue to you that you got a good deal. It's a great experience. It's truly independent. I think the solo mode is going to be like weirdly different, like the different scenarios. I can take chances that would never fly with a bunch of teams at a large IP, short for intellectual property, right? Marvel, which are great games, and probably a whole lot of you have purchased. And I use those as examples because they both, while I was on Kickstarter Live a couple of months ago, those were also both live. But there's something special going on with Glory, and it really is what I want to put out there into the world. I really think that I have something to say about board game design. I think it's in Glory. To that point, let me prove to you now, what I can do as an independent, and why you should stick with me. And I think that I'm respectfully providing you argumentation as to why you should enjoy this ride of the production process of Hogg Publishing, even though we're delayed a bit. And I especially apologize to people with first edition because they got a really good deal. Getting second edition, you got a really good deal. Getting second edition if you had first edition, but you also started this process earlier, and I thought that I would be finished a little bit earlier. I will say that the changes I'm making are not random. This really is about making the best product. It really is about not technical problems, but like the creative muse and really intuiting out the best possible art. And I don't mean visual art. I mean like the art of creating the game experience when you play. How strong the themes are, how subtle the strategy is, how surprisingly concise it can be. All of these things make the game fun, making it a font of epic moments that you don't expect. All of this good stuff that is different than just making it a game that I know you'll buy for a lot of money, which is, I'm talking down about the big IPs because I'm competing with them, just straight up, like advocating like a lawyer would for their side or whatnot. I'm not too worried about being fair to them. We all already love these intellectual properties, so let's not be scared for them. I'll show you something right now that you'd only see from an independent, and the kind of risks that I can do with design I can also do in talking to you about game design and my game and the process. So, for instance, on BoardGameGeek.com, first edition has, I think, 106 as of today, August 10th, 2021, 106 ratings, and about a third of those have comments. And a couple of the comments that give me low marks, give Glory low marks, are that they don't like the noise of luck affecting them negatively. So there was a guy on there who said, complained that he rolled a 1 3 turns in a row for navigating around the board, and that this basically ruined the game for him. This lamentation, this complaint is music to my ears. I love this complaint. He gave me a low mark. That sucks for advertising to new players, but I adore his complaint. See, here's the thing. The chance of on a d8 throwing 3 1s in a row is 8 times 8 times 8. So that's 64 times 8, which is, what would that be? 4 times 8 is 36, plus 6 times 8 with 6 times 8. What's 6 times 8? Is that 48? Let's just trying to do math in my head, but under pressure in front of the camera, not happening. So the chances of that are 1 in 512. So if that, I want that luck to be possible in the game. I want you to be able to die in the game, which you're capable of doing. I want you to be able to get really hard edge cases, which help with building epic moments. You can't build epic moments and have every game the same. Those two things are just opposite of each other. If you like a game that feels the same every time, does not have epic moments, and you just want it purely streamlined, that is, in my mind, not much of a game, but you definitely sacrifice the potential for agency and epic moments. So I want edge cases of really hard luck and really good luck. Edge cases, 1 in 512 is pretty edge case. But additionally, there are heroes that mitigate luck more than others. So play a hero that mitigates luck more. Additionally, there are a lot of starting items. They're not usually used to fix movement rolls, but they can be. So just bite the bullet and do that. Also, there's a marching rule in the game, so you can always, unless you only have 1 health, which is very rare, and you should heal up if you have 1 health, you can expend 1 health to move an extra point of movement. So if you had 3 turns of 1s, that's 6 spaces, which is enough to go anywhere, instead of 3 spaces. Usually, even just marching 2 instead of 1, 9 times out of 10 is going to get you somewhere where you can take a valuable action or take a valuable risk, maybe even. So I love this guy's complaint. I love that he felt pain in the game. I love that, being able to say, you're dead wrong. Choose a hero that mitigates luck if you don't like that kind of play experience. And you can, and you're not, there's so few rules in Glory that if you're missing out on the marching rule, then, it's awesome when you can look deeper into the game and find ways that you can improve, right? And in this guy's case, he could definitely improve. I love that guy for playing Glory and for taking the time to comment. And then as an independent designer, my response to that critique would be, you suck, and if you didn't suck, you would not have that problem. And that's something that I can only say as a super independent designer. I have no boss and I have no real employees, just a few contractors like the artist and the manufacturer and a few other little things like that, people who do the video and all that. So I don't have anybody that I have to feel guilty about taking risks like this. Like I can kind of say what I want, and then artistically I can kind of say what I want too. So this sort of aggressive way of responding to comment and a rating on BoardGameGeek.com is my way of demonstrating to you that I am willing and capable of taking risks, and that will make my comments here maybe a little bit more alive. Hopefully it's to your taste, that it's dynamic and entertaining, and you see my point. But that kind of daring will also exist in the game that you play. And I'm constantly challenging myself to dare, to sort of like hit that intellectual, that artistic goal state of like being uncomfortable and not just making another status quo game that kind of reskins the same mechanics you see everywhere. You know, I've got a book on my bookshelf. You know, I have the courage. I think it's called The Courage to Be Disliked, which I recommend. Super weird book. But some ways that I have the courage to be disliked are the reasons why you should kind of stick with me and enjoy Hogg Publishing as your game provider. Look forward to my future games and accept, with my apologies, the delay on this game. You know, I've got movement rules in the game. Everybody is wrong about movement rules being wrong. All they are is giving you a table of options. And when you have cards and baked in rules for adjusting those rules, and you've got things that stop your movement on the board, and you've got characters that mitigate luck too, adding logistics into an adventure I think is really important. I think that there is no better way to give a sense of travel. And you know, having endpoints on the board, these represent places that are not luck based. Like you can't like not be able to find a town, you know, so these can stop your movement. But things like just drawing a random fate, which is like a kind of non-combat encounter. It's a non-combat encounter 49 times out of 50. 49 times out of 50 because there's one card in the fate deck where you do have to do battle. But you know, you can't just go out and like go to some spot in the forest and be like, time for a random encounter, right? Those are things that you don't stop your movement. There's a way to use movement roll to really thematically represent your journey, right? And I think this game is glory. It can't just be about combat. It's hugely about the journey, which is different than just questing, which is another aspect. And it's also about growth. You know, so there's ability cards and there's gearing up, which are very status quo things about fantasy, but it gets the theme right. And then there's battle as well. So the idea that you do all of these things with so few rules, and that you know, a critic would, it's not surprising that people would be short-sighted about, you know, how useful and how representative and thematic movement rolling can be if you modernize it. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't Snakes and Ladders here, right? Far from. And I really wanted enough noise. Noise, what does that mean? Enough randomization that it's hard to tell what the best subtle strategy is, so that four people can sit down together and have a philosophy about the best way to play Glory. And at the end of the game, you might have a sense, you'll lose or gain confidence that you might be right about the best way to play it, but it's hard to tell. And that's so much like all the ambiguity in adventure. You know, like there has to be a lot of ambiguity. Otherwise it's not an adventure in my mind. It's just a reference to an adventure. It's just a symbol of a symbol. Anyway, a true independent that has pluses and minuses for you versus the big IPs and even bigger medium-sized companies. Hey, maybe I'll be really successful, and then you can tell your friends that you were with me from the start. That would be really fun. I do have another game under my belt, which I'll be revealing in maybe a couple of months. But that's what's happening with Glory. We're out to January. It's partly because I've been slowing things down by making small adjustments, and it's partly because I put it out to January because I'm being told that the cargo transit is COVID affected, and I'm being told that the supply chain leading to the manufacturing print run is being COVID affected. So maybe that's not true of every manufacturer out there, but like I say, Longpack is, what's the game called? Everdell? Which is like possibly the best produced game ever, board game ever. Prettiest board game in a lot of people's opinion. They're our manufacturer, so they are a good manufacturer. It's not the fault of choosing a cheap manufacturer or something like this. So that's my update for you today. Really, this has been like maybe, you know, 10% update and 90% trying to, you know, bring you into the fold of Hogg Publishing and make you feel like you matter to Hogg Publishing by spending all this time describing to you my thought process and trying to situate how I'd like you to think about the process with Hogg Publishing. Maybe we won't sound like other companies' updates or other companies, and maybe reading our rules and playing our game might not feel exactly conventional either, but that's precisely the value. So hope you enjoyed this update in this video. I look forward to bringing you new news for Hogg Publishing in the future, including updates on second edition, getting to you with all the extra content versus first edition and all that jazz. Thank you very much for watching the video, and bye for now.